today I'm not going to spend, like I said, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on hold on a sec. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking to you today. Mainly, I want to leave you some time for working on this on your projects. But I do want to run through a little tutorial on installing iOS apps on a physical device. And this, for the iOS world, is the challenge. Android has made it fairly easy to test apps on a device. They've sort of built that into the device, but Apple has actually set up lots of hoops that you have to jump through to do so. So we're going to kind of go through those with Riley's help. Hopefully this will all work. I'm sort of obviously doing this remotely, and so we will get going without further ado. So I'm going to get rid of my video so that we can just concentrate on the screen. So there's really two things that you need to do to install on a physical iOS device. First of all, you have to have a security certificate installed on the Mac. To do that, there's some steps to go through. You have to be an Apple developer. You have to go to the developer site at developer.apple.com and then generate a security certificate that guarantees that the apps that you develop come from you and no one else. Now, I've already done that step. I've installed that security certificate on the station there in 1141 that Riley's in front of. So you don't need to do that step. The next step is creating a provisioning profile, which I already have created at the Apple developer site. And there's really two kinds of profiles. There's the sort of final profile that is only applicable to a single app, and that's when you get ready to distribute in the Apple Store. You attach that profile to your app, and then you upload it to the store. There's another kind of profile called a development profile or a wildcard profile, and that's a profile that a developer creates that can be attached to any app that they're trying to test. And in a development profile, you have to actually record all of the device IDs and include it in that profile. That's what I did a couple of weeks ago when I collected the unique IDs from all of you. So I embedded them in a provisioning profile, and we're going to see now if this experiment is going to work. So once the provisioning profile is created, you have to download it and install it. So that installation, whereas the security certificate is installed for the whole system, the provisioning profile is just installed per user. So I'm going to actually switch over now to Riley's screen. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, now, Chris, you should see a Mac login screen, and Riley as well. And so that's the screen that Riley's sitting in front of. Now you can see that I can control it, but I'm going to ask Riley to go ahead and log in to that machine.
That's cool.
And
you want me to log in with mine?
Yeah, log in with your net ID. I've tested it with mine, so I'm pretty confident that the process is going to work. But we will see how this goes.
It's kind of funny seeing it mirrored on TikTok.
I know, it's weird. There's all sorts of levels of viewing going on. Okay, so you've logged in. So what I'm going to have you do is launch Xcode 10.1. Yeah, there you go.
Oops.
And we're not going to do anything more than launch it at this point. Okay, that's good. And you can close that window. We won't need that particular window again. Okay, now what I want you to do is open up a new Finder window and navigate to the users folder.
Where is that?
Yeah, the weird thing here is that the Macintosh HD icon is not on the desktop. But here,
Oh.
let me drive for just a minute.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to change the Finder preferences so that we show the hard drive. There we go.
Oh, there it is.
Did it show up?
Yeah, I see it in Finder. Under
Oh, okay.
locations.
Yeah. So go to the Macintosh HD and then find users. And then there's a whole bunch of users. This is everybody that's ever logged in. You see yours at the top there. And if you scroll down, there should be one called shared. Oh no, sorry. This is sorted by date modified, so I saw it just at the top there.
Oh, here.
There it is, yeah. So I want you to pull out two things. I want you to grab first of all, drag that mobile and widgets.livecode to your desktop.
Yeah, it's working great. Thank you.
Yeah, just drop it on the desktop somewhere.
Oh, on the desktop.
Yeah.
There.
That's going to be the stack that we practice with. So now look at that thing called digit310.mobile provision. That's the provisioning profile that I created earlier and downloaded. And I want you to drag that directly to, oh, sorry, I got to stop taking control of your mouse. Drag that directly to the Xcode 10.1 icon on the dock.
That's the one with the little hammer.
Yeah. Okay. And Xcode just sort of ingests it and does magic to it. It basically is installing it to your account or to this user login account. So now let's go ahead and, okay, we've installed the provisioning profile. So let's go ahead and launch LiveCode. We're now on to the next step, which is to build the standalone in LiveCode. So launch LiveCode. There it is, 9.5.1. You can skip that step. Yeah, there we go. All right, so you can get rid of that stuff, get rid of the backdrop.
Get rid of the background again?
Go to development, I believe. Sorry, it's under view.
Oh, view.
Yeah, backdrop.
No.
There you go.
Okay.
There we go. And before we proceed, let's check under the LiveCode menu, let's check preferences and make sure we're set up for iOS development. Go preferences and then choose mobile support. Okay, see there's a red square. So what we need to do is click add entry. We went through this a few weeks ago. And then you want to navigate to applications Xcode 10.1. There we go. And say open. Oh, it's a green square. That's good news. You can close preferences. Now, find that mobile and widgets.livecode stack that I had you download and just double click it and open it. Okay, so this is the test stack that we're going to use to deploy to Riley's device. Make sure, well, we can do this, we can do that later. Now let's open the standalone application settings under the file menu. Okay, so go all the way over to iOS. Notice that that's the only thing selected right now. We're not interested in Android at this point. We just want to test it on iOS. And the following things are what you should check. So where it says build for, make sure iOS is checked, and it is. Now we're going to deploy this to iPod and iPhone, so that's what we've got selected. And we should choose the iOS version that is compatible with your phone. So I think you said you're on 13, if I remember. Riley, do you remember? I think 12 should work.
It probably, I could check. How do I check it on my phone?
You go into your settings on your phone, and I think it's general and about, and it gives you the.
Oh, got it. Yeah, 13.3.
Okay, so we're good. 12 should work for us. Okay, then down below, as we're moving downward, display name. That's basically the name of the app on your device. The version number, we don't have to worry about that at this point. But you know, as you do new builds, you increment that version number if you want to. Now, the next thing that you want to look at is the internal app ID. Because of the provisioning profile that we created, it has to start with edu.byu.dight, and then the last part is basically something specific to your app. So we've got that set up already. Now, the new thing that you wouldn't have seen before, right underneath that, where it says profile, that's our provisioning profile that we just installed through Xcode. So it just magically shows up in LiveCode. So everything is going really well so far. It's working the way we need it to. So you can close that standalone application settings window. So we are actually ready to save this. So go up to the file menu and choose Save as Standalone Application. Keep going down.
Oh,
Okay. Now go ahead and just choose desktop. Oh, it's pointing to my desktop. So choose your own desktop so you can actually write to it. There we go. And just click choose. Let's see, this is where the magic happens. Go ahead and save it. Now, if everything is done right, okay, so that's good. A widget demo folder showed up. That means it's building it. Oh, wow. Nothing bad happened. This is really going well. So at this point, the application is built. So we are finally ready to install the app on your iOS device. So you can go ahead and actually close the stack in LiveCode. We're done with that for now. And now you want to connect your device to the computer. There should be a wire there for you.
yeah,
Okay.
there's a little check.
Okay. So it should be plugged into the USB port on the computer, and then plug the other end obviously into your phone. Now you may want to watch your phone screen and the computer screen, because it's the first time you connect to it, it's going to say, do you trust this computer? And you say, yes, I trust it. And sometimes it'll ask you to enter a number. So are you seeing that?
Not yet. So on the computer here.
Okay, a software update is required to connect to right. Oh, this is going to torpedo us. Just say not now. Let's see if maybe we get lucky. And you can cancel that other one.
Okay.
All right. So go down to Xcode now and activate Xcode. And yeah, I don't need that window anymore. But we want on the window menu.
The window.
Yeah, so keep going.
Here?
Yeah, choose devices and simulators. Okay, so there you are. Okay. This iPhone 7. Now, I have successfully done this even when I see that warning up there. So I'm crossing my fingers. So look down underneath where it says installed apps. Okay. So that's going to be the target. So what I want you to do is open up the widget demo folder that was created when you save that standalone, and drag widget demo right down to that area that says installed apps. Looks like you missed it. There you go. Okay. So we're just waiting. Okay. So I think it worked. Now, Riley, if you go to your iPhone, you should be able to see an app called Widget Demo that's on your phone and run it.
Okay, yeah, I see it here. Let's see what happens. Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right. So why don't you switch to your camera, and I'm going to stop this share and show us your phone. Okay, so we've got there we go. So it's running. It's magic. Oh, I'm really happy that worked. So even though I've done this a lot, as you can see, there are a number of hoops that you have to jump through successfully for it to work. But what we've just proven to ourselves is that on this workstation in that lab, we've got it set up properly so that if you, Chris, were to go through those steps, you would be able to install an app on your phone for testing. So yeah, thanks, Riley. That is great, and I think that is all I have for this portion. I'm going to really quickly go over a couple of things in our learning suite. So you can go ahead and turn off your camera, Riley.
Okay.
And thank you for enabling that.
No problem.
Okay, I'm going to close. I just closed the window, so I'm no longer controlling that Mac in the lab there. And now I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so here's our schedule in Learning Suite. So we're here on April 2nd. And I just want to talk really briefly about getting ready to deploy apps to mobile devices. We kind of went through the basic process for submitting, well, for building the app. There's a whole other process that you have to go through to submit it to the Apple Store. And unfortunately, that's a whole other learning process. But if anyone's interested, I can certainly help you step through it. If you get to the point where you say, hey, this is pretty nice, I think it will work, I'd like to maybe put it on the App Store, we can explore doing that. But for now, I want to look at this link that says screen sizes, launch icons, and splash screens. So when you're dealing with these mobile devices, you're dealing with a whole universe of screen sizes. Now, fortunately, LiveCode has made it pretty simple for us to scale the size of our app to fit virtually any screen. But here's a snapshot of the challenge that faces us. So here's a comparison of, this is actually fairly old, but early on there were these representative sizes of Android screens. But here's something that's even a little bit more eye-opening. So this was a few years ago, somebody said, okay, given all of the various manufacturers and their devices and their screen sizes, here are all of the screen sizes of Android devices like 5 years ago. So it's a pretty fragmented universe, and so you've got to keep that in mind. Like I said, LiveCode has made our lives much easier with that full screen mode setting that we looked at a few days ago. So you have to have it in mind, but not worry about it too much, because if you design your screen wisely with that end in mind, you can zoom the screen size out to fit virtually any device. Now, in the iOS universe, there's a considerably smaller range of screen sizes. Here's a representative sample in I think the year since I did this. chart, there's the iPhone 11, which is roughly the same size as the iPhone 10. So these screen sizes hold pretty well even today. But you can see that there's still a range of sizes that you have to support. And here's some representative iPad models, you know, anything from the original iPad out to the iPad Pro. All of the iPad and most of the Android models that you encounter nowadays are going to have the higher density screens. So the 264 ppi versus 132 ppi. And here are some more references to screen sizes and resolutions, excuse me, that that give you an idea of what the different sizes you have to sort of plan for. I want to touch just briefly on application icons. Now, Riley, when you saw your test app show up on your device, what did the application look like?
It's like a little white square with some gray
Yeah.
lines across it.
So it produces a generic icon. What you really want to do when you're producing a final version of an iOS or even an Android app is create the application icons and also what are called the splash screen images or launch images. Here are some common sizes that you would need to do. So what you would do is actually you'd create an icon and you would save it out in these sizes. Now, back in LiveCode, let me switch over to a different screen here so you can see this. Okay. So here I am on a different screen now. Let me get rid of this clutter in the background. So if we go back into the standalone application settings and go to iOS, notice that there's tabs now on your version of LiveCode. This top little section is obscured by a message that says you can't deploy to the iOS App Store with this version. But if you just click the X to dismiss that, you'll see these things. So we have mainly been working in the basic settings, but there are some other tabs that you can go to set up. Requirements that has to do with onboard capabilities, that is the capabilities of your device that you may want to enable. But for today, I'm interested in the icons and splash. So notice that if you go down here and you hover over each of these selection icons, it'll tell you how large that image needs to be. So let's say you know that you want to deploy to a high-res iPhone, maybe an iPhone 6 Plus size and iPhone X size. That'll show you, if you hover over those, it'll show you exactly what size that icon image needs to be. So you would supply each of those sizes for the platforms that or the device models that you're targeting. And basically it's going to ask you, okay, where's your icon? Just select it, and that's what you do. For the splash screens, you do something similar. So let's say you are creating a splash screen for an iPhone 6, 7, 8 Plus portrait mode or landscape mode. The splash screen is the image that pops up immediately after you launch the app. And it exists to sort of give the user the sense that something is happening immediately, because there's always a little bit of a time lag between when you launch the app and when the active screen actually shows up. So in that interim time, the splash screen appears to show them that yes, something is happening, and in just a few seconds, you'll see the actual active screen. So this is where you designate those. Obviously, you're going to have to create them beforehand, but it shows you the dimensions of the PNG images that you need to create for both iPhones on the left and iPads on the right. Okay. All right. Let me move back to our. Oh, not there. Okay. All right. So you see again some representative sizes for launch images or splash screens for iOS. I took those directly off of that screen that I just showed you in LiveCode a minute ago. For Android, oh, I should have shown you that before. Let me flip back to that real quick. For Android, there is a similar thing. So if I click over here to Android, notice that there is a place where you can designate the icon and the splash image. Okay.
Now, when I'm on right now, looking at it as well, and the splash thing, and it looked like the same on yours. You can't click on it's disabled to be able to pick a splash screen. Do you know why that is?
Let's see. That's a good question. Oh, mine's not.
The splash screen, not the icon.
Oh, the splash screen. Gotcha. I wonder if it may have to do with the size of device. I'm just reading from the web page here. You may have it still up on your device. Launch images or splash screens are not required for Android apps, but LiveCode allows you to include a 600 by 600 image, which will be displayed at launch. Some Android experts actively discourage developers from using splash screens in Android apps. I don't know if it's related to that, but I could swear that I've done this before, so I'm not sure. I can poke around and see if I figure out why. But it's not a requirement for Android, yeah.
Okay. And then in the signing, what would you sign? Like sign with my key? Is that part of the setting?
Oh, okay.
Play Store
Yeah.
stuff?
So that's the analogous thing for Android that we just went through for iOS. So for testing, normally you just say do not sign, because if you sign it, that means you have created a security certificate for your Android development process. You've downloaded it, you've installed it, and when you finally get ready to distribute your app to the Play Store, for example, you would have to sign it with a security key.
Okay.
But for testing and development, you just say do not sign, and it'll install just fine. Now, I will say that in the test environment for Android and for the production environment as well, you need to make sure that this identifier is unique for each app that you want to test on your device. So you do have to change that for each one. You can't just leave the default for every single one of them, because the second time you try to install an app with that identifier, it's going to cause an error. Okay. That, I believe, is everything that I wanted to talk about today. I'm going to go ahead, I've been recording this session, so I'm going to go ahead and make a video out of it so that if you want to walk through that iOS process again, you can. It'll take me some time, obviously, to get that edited, but I'll deploy that to the web page sometime today.
So do
So,
I just do that exact same process if I'm going to test another app on my phone?
right, exactly. So if you've got an
Okay.
app you want to test, you do exactly what you just did, except that you don't have to redo the provisioning profile. That's now installed for you on this machine.
Okay.
So all you would have to do is
Perfect.
go in to your stack, go to the standalone application settings, set all those settings that we talked about, and make sure that the provisioning profile shows up. It's the name of it is digit 310, and then say save as standalone application, and then install it just as we did with through Xcode.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
It's a lot easier than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Once it's the setting up that's challenging, but once it's set up, it's really easy to test various apps on your device. So as I mentioned the other day, I want to just leave you time to do some project work, and I'm going to keep the meeting open so that if you have questions as you're working, I'll be available for answering those and helping you with whatever you run into. And if there's nothing else, then we will see you all on Tuesday. And again, I'll have a brief presentation, but mostly we'll give you time to work on your projects.